Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. The UFO community at this point in time should be on the offense when it comes to this phenomenon. For decades, we've been on defense. We've been playing defense for decades, trying to fend off the debunkers, the negative voices within the scientific community, the unnamed anonymous morons from UFO Reddit. Right? We've been on defense for decades, but over the past few months, that should have changed. And still, there are people out there who have failed to recognize this. A lot of you know where I'm going with this, and we're going to talk about that as we go on. But before I do, I want to talk about something with regard to how ironic it all is, and how it actually sometimes it feels like art imitates life in a way. I believe. When I was a kid, I guess it was probably it had to be 1975, probably January of 1975, and I remember it was a Friday night, and we were all sat down to watch TV. This is back in the day when there was no DVRs or VHS players. All you had was about 12 channels on TV, and you watched whatever they had on. That was it. Whatever channels you got, whatever was on, that's all you had, right? Nothing else at home. Like the way things are so much different now than they were back then. But, we sat down, my dad said, there's a good show coming on. You're going to like this. It was Kolchak the Night Stalker. And it was a show. It only lasted one season. It was on ABC from 1974 until 1975. It lasted one season, and it was only 20 episodes. Before that, there were two pilots. Those 20 episodes took place all pretty much in the city of Chicago. And basically, it was about this reporter named Carl Kolchak, played by Darren McGavin, the late Darren McGavin, the guy who a lot of you probably remember as the father from A Christmas Story. And he played this reporter, Kolchak, and every episode there was some sort of a supernatural kind of thing that he would be trying to report on, trying to investigate. Vampires, Jack the Ripper, alien. There was actually an episode where there was an extraterrestrial. There was the first episode I ever saw involved an android, some kind of an android escaping from a laboratory and going on a rampage. And he would be every episode was the same thing. He was always in arguments with the authorities, with law enforcement all the time. The law enforcement was always trying to cover it up. He was fighting with his editor, trying to get the stories printed. In the end, usually he never got the story printed and it would get buried. But that's how the series was. So that those 20 episodes, for the most part, most of them took place in Chicago. There was an episode where he was on a cruise ship with a werewolf. There was another episode where he traveled to Las Vegas. That was basically a continuation of the pilot movie that originally aired in 1972. And that pilot movie was just called The Night Stalker. And then there was a second pilot movie that took place in Seattle called The Night Strangler. But in that original pilot movie, it's ironic in a way that it took place in Las Vegas. And over the last few months, I found myself watching this series again. I have a pretty large Blu-ray collection. I'm a big fan of classic movies and some old TV shows. And one of the things I have in my collection is the Kolchak the Night Stalker series, along with the two pilot movies. But what's funny is the original pilot movie that was on and that aired in 1972, and at that time was the most watched show on television ever. It had the highest ratings of any TV movie ever at that point, of anything actually. From what I remember, from what I believe, and it was a big hit. So eventually, 2 years later, 74, 75, there was the TV series. But in that original first movie, it takes place in Las Vegas, and he's covering this story with this vampire, and he's fighting, arguing and fighting with the police department, with the district attorney's office. He wants to print this story. They don't want him to. His editor doesn't want him to. They want to keep it secret from the public because there's this vampire on the loose that's killing women, young women, draining their blood, and they don't want to talk about it. It's bad for business. It's like, it's going to scare tourism away. And it's just so funny to me, right? Like now, looking at what's going on now, that seems like that's what the situation here is with this Las Vegas alien story. Nobody wants to talk about it. Not even people within the UFO community. They want to keep it buried. It's really hilarious how these that TV series now, to me, particularly that first movie, which happens to take place in Las Vegas, interestingly, and it takes place in Vegas, and now we have this situation that unfolded in Vegas last year, and yet nobody wants to talk about it. Just to update everyone, it was almost 2 months ago. Actually, today's the 9th. It was on June 11th that I sent a letter to the Pentagon, and guess what? They still have not responded. That's the letter that I laid out. The evidence. I had images, I had pictures, I had links to different videos for them to look at. Guess what? They've never responded. And you know what? To me, their silence is the answer. That's as far as anybody should be concerned. The silence is the answer. That tells you all you need to know. They're not going to respond because they can't. They can't. I'm not a known entity out there, right? Look at how many followers I have on YouTube. I got just over 4,000. On Spotify, I got about 7,600. I don't have a large following out there at this point. So they're not going to respond, because if they respond, then other people who do have large followings will be compelled to report about it. People like John Greenwald, and not only him, but the networks, some of the bigger news publications out there, they'll have to talk about it. Everybody will have to talk about it. So they're not going to say anything about it. They will not say anything about it. The best policy for them is to say nothing, but their silence should tell you all you need to know. They can't. There's nothing they could do. They're not going to be able to debunk it, because that case actually involved alien creatures. It actually involved alien creatures. So I just want to point some of these things out, because I just think what we're missing here in the UFO community is that, to me, this brings a swagger. This should bring a swagger that we've never had before, because we have evidence now. No debunker's ever going to be able to dispute this. Nobody will ever be able to dispute it. Once you lay all the facts out for anybody out there, they're going to realize, wow, yeah, this does involve some sort of extraterrestrial or non-human intelligence. That's the conclusion they're going to reach. There's just no doubt about it. So people here should realize that this story, this whole thing, should give the entire UFO community the balls, right, to stand up to the government, to say you've been lying. If you're not lying, then how do you explain this? You're telling me you don't know anything about this stuff, right? Because we have evidence now that shows that there's something here. There's no question about it. But yeah, I just want to point these things out, because I think it's very, very, very important right now. I don't expect anything to happen for the rest of this year. We're in the middle of a presidential campaign. Nothing's going to happen. It's just not. So I would expect that disclosure is going to have to be put on the back burner till after the election sometime. December, January, February, something like that. But we need to have disclosure now, because we have the proof out there. And the UFO community, everybody in the UFO community, the big names need to get behind this already. What are you waiting for? And I bring this up because, I'm part of this. I talk to different people, lots of different people behind the scenes. I have contacts with a lot of different people. You would be surprised who I'm in communication with sometimes. And I'm part of a messaging app where I'm part of a group on a messaging app where there's some pretty big names involved in there. And today I was looking at this app, and I'm part of this. It's only a small group and a pretty big name, somebody who the UFO community loves. We all love this guy. We all love him. Everybody loves this guy. I don't hear any complaints about him. A person who, as far as I'm concerned, one of the top people in this field. One of the top people out there. I can't say who it is, so don't even bother trying to guess, because I'm never going to tell you. Okay, but the bottom line is like, this person has issues. He's not sure about the Vegas stuff. There's something. He doesn't know. He doesn't think that there could be anything to it. I find this funny that, to me, right, then anybody, I don't care who you are, right, then you're not paying attention, you're not doing your homework. I'm telling you right now, as a lot of people on this channel know, right, and I'm going to prove it in a little bit here. A lot of people who have been following this on my channel, they understand that there is something to it. There's no question about it. No doubt. No doubt. A lot of people out there realize. In fact, a lot of them are flabbergasted that the entire UFO community isn't standing up with this and saying, see, we told you the whole time. See, this ends it. The debate is ended. Scott Roeder, the crime scene reconstruction expert, back in late March, early April, he did this analysis, and he showed that there was most certainly something there, right? And that initial analysis has expanded now, and now there's even more evidence. There's even, as far as I'm concerned, I think even additional evidence now that shows for a fact not only was there's these tall creatures there, but I believe that there was the gray aliens in there, because the short ones, the small, there was a bunch of different kinds in there in that yard. And we have an image of one that I've been talking about here a lot recently, because I think it's very important. It's the best evidence we have ever had on this. It shows a gray alien, just as described by people over the years, different abductees, people who saw these things. And this should be giving the UFO community that swagger that we have the evidence now. There's nothing that any of these debunkers could say anymore to dispute it. They can't do it. They've tried. They can't. Most of them won't even touch it. The Pentagon won't respond. Why? Because they can't do anything about it. It's there. There's nothing they can do about it. They know it's over. Right, Scott Roeder, he proved it initially with determining that there was that creature behind the fence using some sort of cloaking technology, as well as the one creature that the movement, you could see it chasing those people out of the yard. But there was other stuff. Later on, we see the other creature in the background. And it all jibes, doesn't it? A lot of abductees talk about, they get abducted. There's these tall praying mantis creatures. There's these tall grays, short grays. And I think we have evidence now that I've been talking about recently. Probably the most compelling evidence with this video, as far as I'm concerned at this point, is the imagery of that little short gray. You could see it. It's moving. It's there. It has the big eyes, just as described by all these people over the years. But anyway, during that conversation I was having online today on that messaging app in that group of, it's just a small group, but it's a lot of people who are in the UFO community, some big names, some smaller names, but it's a nice little group, I think, and it's very interesting. And I wrote this. Let me pull it up on the screen here. And I wrote, "What bothers me the most about the reaction to this is, for years and years, we hear about all these alien encounter cases, and for the most part, there is absolutely no evidence to support the claims made. We accept a lot of these stories based solely on the testimony of the people affected. But in the Vegas case, even though family members provided explicit details of what happened, even though police officials believed the family was authentically terrified and telling the truth, even though the meteor was captured on numerous video sources and made an unnatural oscillating sound as it fell to Earth, and had no heat signature, even though factions of the government were drawn to the case, even though the 1 minute and 41-second cell phone video filmed by the mother was determined to be unaltered and clean from CGI, for some reason there are many people in the UFO community who have trouble accepting the fact that we can see aliens in the video that corroborate everything 3 witnesses claim to have encountered. In the final analysis, the only explanation for the anomalies that appear in the video is extraterrestrial NHI. It's the only logical conclusion, and it cannot be denied, okay? It cannot be denied. You can't deny it. There's no denying it anymore. It proves it. So I guess I don't understand. I don't understand. This is what we've been waiting for in the UFO community. This proves it. It proves it. There's no debate anymore. Where's Neil deGrasse Tyson? Mick West won't touch it with a 10-foot pole because he made a fool out of himself last year when he was talking about raccoons, right? Raccoons and coyotes. Where's the rest of them, right? They're not. Where's the people in the UFO community? Where's the cavalry? It never arrived. But it should arrive, and it should arrive with a swagger that it never had before. A swagger that should be there now. This is it. There's nothing that could stop this. There's nothing that could disprove it. So I just think it's important to talk about these things. And I'm going to pull up some comments here. Not everybody agrees with it. There are a few people, but I would say a vast majority of people who have been commenting on this on my Spotify and YouTube channels, they agree. They think this is indisputable. It's not just me saying this. There's a lot of people out there now who have seen this, and they think it's indisputable. There's been people in my family who didn't believe this stuff at all. Right? They didn't think anything of it of all these years, and now they believe it. Right? They believe it now. I just want to go over some of these things here. Some of the comments recently on just they're going to use some of the ones from YouTube here. Here's from Sean C8208. He says, I could watch that a million times and be blown away as I was the very first time you revealed finding that being. Just incredible. Now, he's talking about that being in the background by the heavy equipment that shows its head. It's a gray alien. I think it's a short gray alien. That's what I think it was. Because you remember when that craft landed, Angel Kenmore said that he heard what sounded like thousands of footsteps going off in all different directions on their property. And I think because I think that craft, whatever it was loaded with these beings, and they were all trying to hide. Something went wrong. It came down, had to make a hard landing. They called the cops. By the time the cops show up, it was gone. We don't know how it got out of there. Who knows? Maybe there was 2 UFOs reported in the area. Maybe they came and got them out of there. We just don't know. But here's the thing: a lot of people who have been following this on my channel believe this now. I do get some people to say I still don't see it. It just doesn't do anything for me. That kind of stuff. And then every now and then there are some people who come on here who I got to kick off because they say really terrible things that I can't ever repeat on here. But the bottom line is most people, I would say most certainly over 90% of the people who have been commenting on this, and this is from a recent episode where I talked about that. That was the episode where I did the AI animation version, where the computer understood that, and the computer realized, actually acknowledges that there was something there and made a cartoon version of it because it saw that there was something there too. The computer sees something there too. Let's see, there was some other comments here. Alexander Jeffrey KE8YN says maybe some open-minded university researcher could do further research on it. It is historical video footage, whether it's a bit grainy or not. I don't know if people really deeply understand what they're looking at, that they are looking at an alien entity of this sort, maybe for the first time in their life. Yeah, you're looking at an alien entity in that image. That's what you're actually seeing an alien in that in that little segment of video. And then there was a guy that responded to him saying, "I totally agree with you. This is stellar footage that we won't get to see much longer. They will start scrubbing it eventually. I don't think you need to worry about that, Mr. Scott, because I don't think they're going to start scrubbing it. Because how are they going to do that? I mean, a lot of people have this video downloaded on their computers. They're not going to be able to scrub it away. They can't scrub away this proof." You know, fortunately for the UFO world out there, the Kenmores uploaded this video to Reddit just a few days after this incident happened, apparently. And had the government known about this, I can guarantee you they would have covered it up and they would have confiscated that video. There's no way they would have released it because they want to keep it a secret because they want to continue the reverse engineering program and act like the rest of us are stupid. Here's what Randy McKinnon says. Oh, actually, this is something. Yeah, he says it looked like there could have been a taller creature to the right of it. There's other things there, right? I mean, you can't see them as clearly, but now because we know that there are creatures there for sure because we have proof of it. That tells us that some of these other anomalous, weird things we're seeing in there are probably creatures too. Let's go on to. Here's from Sensei Chanel 96 says, "This is the best zoom in video so far. I'm scared and excited." Jeff McDuffie 72 Meridian Gate says they may have the physical ability to bend light without technology. Yeah, they're using some sort of whatever was going on near that equipment. It looks like they were using some sort of technology to distort everything so they couldn't be seen. But for those few seconds, it was off 3 seconds worth where it was undistorted and you could see it. Here, Bill Davis, that it's a definite gray. He's talking about the 4.13 minute mark and after. Yeah, that's a definite gray. Yes, it is, and Bill knows it. Here's Enter the Skiff says there is a field of distortion that makes it hard to focus on what you are seeing when witnessing them live. I don't doubt its strange effect on various types of recording equipment as well. Much support, ignore the hate. The ones that have experienced these events agree with you. Yes, people and then we're going to get into that in a minute. We're going to talk about somebody who has seen these things, and we're going to make a comparison about what that person saw and what we see in this video. Here's another one from Sensei Chanel 96. Wow, the original is pretty clear. I can definitely see the face. To me, these types of aliens look like ants. And then this was interesting. Paul IE6WI wrote to me. He says, "I have the original clear video, but don't know where to look for this alien. That he is showing his face in this video as it's far too zoomed in. Anyone help?" And I did help him. I said, okay. Go to about the 4-minute mark. I gave him a different video to go look at where he could see where what I was filming there, and he went and did it. And then he comes back to me. He says, "Perfect. I know where to look now. Cheers, my man. Wow. After watching my copy, it's definitely there. I would never have spotted it without your help. Crazy, man. Yeah." Yeah, you know, we kept on looking at that video over and over again, trying to figure out, you know, it seemed like there was some things going on and they were looking at something, but it was only, it's really hard to tell, you know, a lot of the other things, but for those few seconds when after they got chased out and then they reopened the gate and they you know, trained the camera back onto that heavy equipment for a couple of seconds, something went wrong with that cloaking that they were using, that the camouflage, and you could see it clearly, and it's undeniable now, undeniable. Here's what Tim G. Stars says. It's so strange, and it's not like any other examples exist. Nothing like it. Yes, there's nothing like it. Here's XXX25699 says, absolutely incredible. I see the faces. Wow. And here's Gabriel Haberg says, thank you. It can be seen a lot better now. It's very compelling. Here's from Mac Vancouver UFO says, I really appreciate you breaking this down, especially the first alien face. It's funny. Now I can 100% see it and see it clearly. And then Christian Morales writes, Jim, stop. You're going to give Mick West nightmares and PTSD. Yeah. Yeah, and then Enter the Skiff responded to that saying, yeah, he might have a Wikipedia, he might make a Wikipedia page and get the disinfo cult after it. Yeah, I'm waiting for that one to happen. They're going to create watch them try to do that, because if they do, right, there's going to be big issues. I'm going to be contacting Wikipedia, and that's going to get taken down, and there's going to be problems for those people. And the other thing is too, if I was the family at this point, I've talked about this before. If I was a member of the Kenmore family, and anybody out there tries to say publicly that it was a hoax and these people are fraudsters, right? If they were to do that, I would file lawsuits. And if Wikipedia publishes some bogus story about it, I would file lawsuits, because guess what? They would win this case in court. They would win it in court. And then Fred Obermeyer says, that is very clear, more convincing than the original discovery. Thanks, Jim. Yeah, there's some people who think it's more convincing now with even the other face than the original discovery. I just want to say, see, to me, all of it works together. Like the total, you keep the total. When you look at the totality of everything, and you see, okay, you have this. Okay, there were some people who have issues with the creature by the fence. There were some people who have issues with the being that chased them out of the yard, right? But that then when you take them all and you put them all together, right? And you'd say to yourself, wait, yeah, but how? It's just there's too much here, and now you have this, and it's clear. It's clear. Right? It's as clear as we've ever had. It's as clear as we've ever had. Here's what Hex Nottingham said. This is pretty clear. I've never seen it as clear as just now. It's there. Yep. Ken Carson says, I see it. This is helpful. MJ Beaver says, are the frames that show distortion part of the camera's autofocus? It seems that it could possibly explain the change in focus, but don't get me wrong. I know they can cloak and distort themselves as well. Great video. Very creepy. Darger 3 says, do you think they need to be uncloaked to see our reality clearly, or maybe it takes too much energy or focus to remain cloaked? Because why wouldn't they just remain cloaked indefinitely so we couldn't see them at all? There must be a reason they alter, right? I responded, I don't know. I think in this case they were trying to hide themselves from the people and the camera, but we can't say for sure. We just don't know. There's a lot of things we just don't know, folks, but the one thing we do know, right, is that family was telling the truth, and now we have absolute proof that shows that our aliens are here. There is some sort of a presence among us, and that all these people who have been seeing them all these years, they've been telling you the truth. Bill Davis also said, what a great idea using AI to show the world the NHI in the Las Vegas video. This is even more undeniable proof. Groundbreaking. Yes, the fact that the AI, the computer itself recognizes that there was a face there, that tells you all you need to know. All right, I mean, you could see it even before the computer, but the fact that the computer recognizes it too, what else do you need? We have it. It's all, where's your swagger at? We have the swagger. There's nothing they can do anymore. Where's the rest of the big names in the UFO community? This wasn't a hoax. It wasn't a hoax just because these people didn't want to talk to a lot. Just because, here's one of the issues that's been out there that I hear, is that they didn't want to talk to people. They would set up an interview and then they wouldn't talk. This is what happened to Doug Papa. So then actually after a while, he's just, it's just a hoax now. Well, you know what? No, it's not a hoax. They didn't want to talk about it anymore. It scared them. And who knows what else was going on behind the scenes. For all we know, they might have received some government men in black were around their house. Maybe there was something more to that, right? They weren't lying. They weren't making a hoax. Why? How could they? They called 911. You saw all the video. Have you not studied this yet? What have you been doing with yourself? It's the biggest story of all time, like I've been talking about. Anyway, Derek Farmer says, just the facts, sir. Thanks. There's a lot of comments here. I don't want to there's a lot of people giving me a lot of good comments, and I don't want to just go. I don't want to talk about that. You could see them on there. I just want to get disclosure. This is the bottom line. I don't care about anything else. I just want the truth to be told. I don't like the idea that we're still having this thing covered up. I don't like the idea that people get made fun of. There was one person I had to block out. I think this was on Spotify recently. This person I had to send him to the cornfield because he just kept on posting these horrible comments. Luckily on there I get to see them first on Spotify before you have to look at them and then publish them. And this guy's sending stuff about talking about anal probes, laughing about it and stuff like that. That's supposed to be funny. How could that be funny when now you're seeing that these aliens are really here and this has happened to people? How's that funny? Here's what Christoph Bosch says, I can see something. In the original, I can see at least 3. Great work with that AI program. Really helped define what we saw in those frames. Here's another one. User FI4JK says, your work is important. You help people see it with their own eyes. This is exactly what we need. Let's see. Julia June says, Julia June, by the way, she's the person from New York who actually, showed me pointed me in the direction of the creature above the fence. And then that caused Scott Roeder to look into it, and the rest is history. And she writes, I remember seeing something vaguely humanoid back there too, and we know there had to be something directly in front of them the way they reacted. The AI literally recognizes faces, and it's not just shadows and blurs. I wonder if the AI is good enough to find the one I found over the fence. Now, unfortunately, it's not. You have to remember the one above the fence, you could see through it. It was semi-transparent, and it doesn't really, the AI doesn't work as good on that one because you can see through it, so it's seeing the trees in the back, the tree branches in the back. But I'm still working on that one. We're going to try to get that one, see what we could do, and I'm going to make a presentation on it regardless at some point in the future, but I'm still working on that one. Here was from Reese Reiser, says, thank you so much for doing all this work so we can all clearly see the cloaking working and failing. Regarding the aliens, thinking I heard a family member say in a vid that it sounded like hundreds of footsteps running around in their yard. Actually, it was thousands of footsteps, but probably hundreds. I would say it probably sounded like hundreds of footsteps to them, but he might have been exaggerating a little bit and said it sounded like thousands. But the bottom line is that Angel did hear footsteps, and they went in all directions, and as you could tell in that video, there's something going on. There were things hiding in that yard, hiding around the heavy equipment, and we know for a fact there was at least one little gray alien out there, a 3 foot to 3.5 foot tall creature, looked like it might have been kneeling down behind something, and its head pokes out. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, somebody like JD, though, she doesn't see it. Says, Jim, I'm a fan of yours, but I don't see anything here. I want to believe that there is something there, but I just can't see it. And I just wrote back, I'm sorry, I'm trying my best to help. It seems most can see it, but others have trouble. Yeah, there's a small percentage of people, it seems, that have been responding that can't see it. So I do get people who still are having trouble seeing it. I'm trying my best. I guess I'll try to do more in the future. I'll try to make it clearer for people so they see it better. I'll do I think that right now, I think we're at a point now where it seems I don't know what else I could do, but maybe I could draw lines around it, like on every frame, so you could see it better. I don't know. I'll try to do something in the future with that. Let's see. And here's Peter Von Howe says, the thing is, these are 100% real. They have this technology to hide themselves. There are also many different groups here, according to all the recorded encounters. Not all of them try to hide from humans. On the contrary, they go a long way to show themselves, like in the Phoenix Lights events. or many other close encounters, which have been very benevolent and pleasant. Here's the thing. They do hide themselves and they do try to do this kind of stuff. But, I think, I look at my experience when I was a kid, 1977, about close to 9 years old when I had the experience, when I wake up in the middle of the night and there's some sort of being in the room standing right beside the bed. It had 3 digits for its hand, like I've talked about. It was moving closer to my head and then further away. I could see it clearly through this thin blue blanket that I had over my head at the time. The light was on in the room so I could see there was something standing there, and there was this ungodly electronic humming sound the whole time. This event lasted 20 minutes. I couldn't. I peeked out of the blanket. I was too afraid to look at the face of this thing that was standing by the bed. But I peeked out of the blanket in the other direction, where on the other side of the room where my brother was sleeping. My brother Davey. Started screaming to him. He wouldn't budge. His face was looking right toward me. I'm screaming toward him, and he wouldn't wake up. It was like he was completely conked out, and there was this unbelievably loud humming sound, this electronic humming sound. Screaming for my mom and dad. Nobody comes to the rescue. I start saying my prayers, wishing the thing to go away. I open my eyes. It's still there. I had lain there for 20 minutes. This whole thing is like a nightmare. Unbelievable. There's some sort of a demon from hell in my room, as far as I know. Right? Then somehow I get conked out, and I wake up the next day. I don't think that they planned for that. I don't think they planned to have me come into consciousness. I don't think that that's how it works. Okay, let's see if there's any other good ones on here. David U5X says, I think some people don't want to see it because they don't want to face reality. Yeah, I think there could be the ontological shock factor, obviously. Even people who study this might not want to look at it. They might, like, once they see it, that's like they've been, they're like the dog trying to catch up to the car, and they finally catch it. Now they don't know what to do with it. It's like, oh my God. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's the best way to describe it. I don't know. But as you can see, well, we're going to go. There was another comment I want to go over here. This was from somebody, Grim7747, who Grim didn't believe the other stuff that was presented originally. But now, because of this stuff that I've been talking about recently, the little gray alien in the background, now he believes it, apparently. He says here, the face that comes into focus for those few frames has got to be, hands down, the best piece of evidence out there of these beings. The 2 things that Scott points to in the video is a stretch of the imagination, especially the first one. Sorry, not sorry. Well, I don't think it was a stretch of the imagination, but we could agree to disagree on this one. The thing that showed up over the fence, that the thing that was blocking out pixels in the camera by 66%, the thing that looked just like what the people, the family members described. They said it was 8 to 10 foot tall creatures. I think that those 8 to 10 foot tall creatures were mantises, the mantis type beings, and that's what they described, and that's what it looks like. It takes on that form when it shows up over the fence for those few seconds. There's no question about it. John Hobart responded to Grimm saying, it really is incredible, genuine evidence. And at this point, any of the loud voices within the UFO community that aren't covering this extensively are people I refuse to listen to for another second. We have actual real evidence to talk about, and these people are ignoring it and continuing to talk about the same old nonsense. No thanks. Yeah, that's how some people feel. Like, it's like, again, like, did we finally catch we were like the dog that finally caught the car, and now they don't know what to do with it. And then Tony Barnes responds. He says, I really believe the entities Scott exposed, with, of course, Mr. Q, the bulldog also, are absolutely real. Yeah, I think that the thing behind the fence is undeniable. I mean, this is what got us where we are now. The thing behind the fence, well, actually, initially, there was the thing that was chasing them out of the yard. We see the movement. There was movement there. There was something moving toward them. We couldn't really make it out that well, but you could see it, right? And that helps to corroborate their story of seeing alien creatures in the backyard. Then we had the face, the transparent, semi-transparent face that appears momentarily in the shadow behind the fence slots that appears behind the fence. You could see the face hovering over the fence for those few seconds. There's no question. Right? There was no question as far as I'm concerned. But now, on the top of that, we have this other thing, right? And guess what? The debunkers and the deniers, what are you going to do? You can't do anything, because you know what? We were right all along. Scott Roeder was right all along. We have the proof now. And they have some sort of cloaking technology. It's obvious now to all of us. Tony Barnes says, he continues, he says, they don't present the more familiar visage of the better known type, the gray type of entity. He's talking about the one that appears over the fence and the one that chases him out of the yard. The being near the heavy machinery popping in and out of view seems to be of that type. Yes, I agree. I think that the thing that's behind that we're looking at, this new latest one that we're looking at, that little gray, that conforms with the gray aliens that we hear in so many encounters throughout the decades. And he goes, there's apparently an absolute plethora of different types of these beings. I doubt all of them have been cataloged in the public knowledge base. I suspect sections of our various governments have a much better, far more comprehensive list of these visitors, or perhaps the taller entities' images are distorted to some extent by their low visibility cloaking tech acting in some way. The family certainly, to my eyes at least, are reacting and reversing rapidly from the approaching entity. Yes, there's no doubt that the family was reacting all at the same time to the approaching entity, that one that chased them out of the yard. They didn't even know about the one by the fence at the time they were filming. And then Grimm responds to Tony Barnes saying, the entity that Scott pointed out in his first analysis is a camera artifact. They certainly reacted to something that spooked them, but we are unable to see what it is. The reason I say the first video is a camera artifact is because if you pause the video as they are backing away, use the period button to slowly advance the video frame by frame, the movement of the thing that is between their heads moves in a matching pattern precisely with the guy on the right's head. Same movement to the left and slightly up with no variation in pattern. The fence one is a little more interesting, but the very first analysis is just an artifact. So Grimm thinks that the thing that chases him out of the yard was just an artifact. He thinks that the one that shows above the fence, he thinks that's more interesting, but he finds the face that we're talking about here, the little gray alien, that's undeniable. So some people are getting there in different ways, right? But he got there. Grimm got there, and everybody should be there at this point. It's undeniable. There's too much going on. There was too much to this case to try to sweep it under the rug. There's just too much, despite what any of these loud voices or anywhere else on the internet will try to tell you. And here's Rusty Grunner says, Scott should take another look at this. The Vegas aliens were real. But basically was Rusty saying that Scott should take another look at well, Scott actually has looked at the thing we're talking about. He just acknowledged it. Now, I don't know what else. He's been looking at it. He still thinks that there's more things in there, just harder to try to come up, just say what they're, exactly what they look like because they're so shadowy, but there's most certainly other things there. You could see movement of things. You can make out little things here and there, but nothing is as clear as that little gray alien, as far as I'm concerned, or the one that shows it's by the fence. Yes, admittedly, the one that chases them out of the yard, you really can't tell. You can't really. To me, I think it's definite though, because something scared them, and you can see the movement. You just can't tell what it looks like. Now I know some people think it's an artifact, but hey, what does it matter? In the final analysis, this proves, even for some people like Grimm, for instance, the alien in the back does it for him. So however you get there, the fact of the matter is this proves it all. That's the bottom line here. Okay, I just want to talk about something else too. Now this is another important part to all of this that I want to talk about. Okay, I'm reading here one of the most famous UFO books of all time, Communion by Whitley Strieber. This is the first edition, by the way, that I'm holding in my hand right here. And the cover, as everyone knows, is very, very famous. This is published in 1987. There you go. Look at that cover. Look at that. Look at that. Huh? Look at that. Look at that. Now then, look at the picture of the frickin' alien. Look at the picture of the alien in the video. Look at that. All right. Look at that. Look at that. See it? And then look at the picture you see in the background here. What are we talking about? We got him. We got him. Where's your swagger at? Where's your swagger? But anyway, I just want to read a little bit from this book where he talks about seeing one of these creatures. He wakes up in the middle of the night and there's something sneaking into his bedroom. He could see the door moving. There was one of those double doors that led into his bedroom. He said it was moving closed. And he said as they close outward, this meant that the opening was getting smaller, concealing whatever was behind that door. I sat up again. My mind was sharp. I was not asleep, nor in a hypnopompic state between sleep and waking. I wish to be clear that I felt at that moment wide awake and in full possession of my faculties. I could easily have gotten up and read a book or listened to the radio or gone for a midnight walk in the snow. I could not imagine what could be going on, and I got very uneasy. My heart started beating harder. I wasn't settled back anymore. I was sitting up, a question just forming in my mind. What could be moving the door? Then I saw, edging around it, a compact figure. It was so distinct and yet so completely impossibly astonishing that at first I could not understand it at all. I simply sat there staring, too stunned to move. Months and months later, I discovered that another person who has had the visitor experience first encountered it through the medium of this same peculiar figure rushing toward her in exactly the way that this one now rushed toward me. Yeah, that's how it happened. This thing rushed toward him and then he blacked out somehow. Then he had other weird memories the next day about what happened next. But he describes the creature. He says, before I narrate these next few seconds, though, I would like to give an exact description of how the figure looked to me. First, I will describe the physical conditions under which I was seeing it. The room was dim but not dark. The burglar alarm panel alone emitted enough light for me to see. In addition, there was snow on the ground, and that added some ambient light. Had it been a person peeking into the room, I could have made out his or her features clearly. This figure was too small to be a person unless a child. I have measured the approximate distance that the top of the head was from the ground based on my memory of the figure's position in the doorway, and I believe that it was roughly 3.5 feet tall, altogether smaller and lighter than my son. I could see perhaps a third of the figure, the part that was bending around the door so that it could see me. It had a smooth, rounded hat on with an odd, sharp rim that jutted out easily 4 inches on the side I could see. Below this was a vague area. I could not see the face, or perhaps I would not see it. A few moments later, when it was close to the bed, I saw 2 dark holes for eyes and a black down-turning line of a mouth that later became an O. From shoulder to midriff was the visible third of a square plate etched with concentric circles. This plate stretched from just below the chin to the waist area. At the time I thought it looked like some sort of breastplate or even an armored vest. Beneath it was a rectangular appliance of the same type which covered the lower waist to just above the knees. The angle at which the individual was leaning was such that the lower legs were hidden behind the door. Now, I'm not going to read the rest of this, but I think this book is great, and he describes what he sees, but I thought this was interesting. A few moments later, when it was close to the bed, I saw 2 dark holes for eyes and a black down-turning line of a mouth that later became an O. And what's interesting to me is that when you look at that video, let me pull it up on the screen here for a second. When that creature that we see in the video starts disappearing, when it starts becoming distorted again, doesn't it look like that? I mean, you see it looks like there could be a mouth here. You could barely see it right there. You clearly see the big eyes, right? You could clearly see you can see the head turning. Is this the same kind of thing that Whitley Strieber saw peeking by, through the door, right in the door to his bedroom, and then it rushed toward him, and the last thing he remembered, like the face had the mouth, that small mouth, and then it turned into like a circle. Like, watch this when this thing goes into when it starts to become distorted again. I just want to pull that up. Wait to see this. There, look at that weirdness. Look at that. Look at that. Doesn't that look like a circle there? Just this, same kind of description as from Whitley Strieber? Doesn't that look like that, folks? Check it out. Check it out. Where's your swagger at? We got him, folks. We got him. No denying it anymore. Okay, and speaking of Whitley Strieber, I want to go to his website, Unknown Country. This is something I read before, and this is one of the reasons that I believe one of the reasons why the government doesn't want to talk about this with the public, because then they would have to talk about this kind of stuff. Because now that we see with our own eyes that all of this stuff is real and that there are gray aliens, that they really do exist, and that this is going to give Mick West PTSD and nightmares, right? And now that we have the swagger, right? And now that the Pentagon is afraid to respond to the letter and all of that kind of stuff, and we know for a fact, right? This is why this is another reason, in addition to the cover-up that they've been maintained. They don't want to talk about that they've been covering this up for all these years, right? That's one thing. And they don't want to talk about it because of the reverse engineering and all that kind of stuff, right? But they don't want to have to explain this. But you know what? I don't think anybody's going to be, people are concerned. Well, they'll be concerned about this, but there's a lot of concerns. We could walk and chew gum at the same time. But this is one of the reasons, too. When you read what Whitley writes here, this is from March. This was after Arrow came out with its report, right? And this is what what Whitley wrote. He talked about him. He's one of those people that had dealt with aliens, and he was talking about this. This was from the same night. This was what was the night here? It was December 26, 1985. On that night, that description I was just giving you, that's when that happened. And this is what also happened. And he writes this on his website back in March. He writes, I am one of those people, and let me summarize my story very simply and concretely. On December 26, 1985, I was kidnapped out of my home in the dead of the night and subjected to rape with an electrostimulator that induced an ejaculation. The ejaculate was harvested. I received a rectal injury from this attack that left me pain for the next 20 years. Now, I know there's a lot of like children, like childish brain dumbbells out there, right, that think that's funny. That kind of stuff is funny for some reason. When people get raped and these aliens apparently do sort of rectal probes, right? Like that's funny to some people. But guess what? Now that you see that it's actually real, what's so funny about it? It's not. There's nothing funny about it. Nothing funny about it at all. He goes, I was also, I believe, at least in part by the application of methodical and sinister social engineering masterminded within the United States intelligence community, made into an international laughingstock. The phrase rectal probe was singled out in my book Communion and made into a comedy meme. My rape was turned into a joke. The result was that people stopped buying my books and I was humiliated beyond belief. My life almost was completely ruined. I had a strong support in my wife, Ann Strieber, and we fought back together. She has passed on, but I'm still here and still fighting and will also continue until the day I die. The greater issue is this. Why have eggs and semen been extracted from so many people, and why aren't we being defended or at least warned? And he goes on. I'll leave a link for this. It was a great little piece from him. You can understand why he's mad. That's why I'm mad. I didn't like the idea, when I was a little kid being told that I didn't experience what I experienced. There was something in my room that night. It wasn't human. Nobody believed me because you know what? The government was never truthful about this. People are just supposed to internalize this kind of stuff. And look at people like had even more horror, terrorizing experiences like Whitley Strieber. They have to just deal with this somehow, and the government doesn't want to stand up for them. But you know what? You have to stand up for them now. You're going to tell us, right? You're going to tell us, look at this thing. Look, we got the proof now. Look at this. Look at that. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? There it is. What are you going to do? We got you now. It's over. If you don't know about this, then we need to put people in there that could figure it out, right? If you're going to tell us you don't know about these things, then we need people working in the Pentagon that does know, that wants to figure it out and tell us the truth about it. You're going to tell us you don't know about them? Anyway. I just wanted to point these things out today. We need the UFO, the people, alien abductees. Oh, that's another thing I want to point out that in the previous show I talked about. I would love to have some people come on who have had experiences with this phenomenon. And so far, there's been like 3 different people who have contacted me, and they're willing to share their stories on here, and that's going to be great. I'd like to. I think people need to start speaking out. There's nothing to be afraid of. I'm talking about it. Look what I'm doing. I don't care. I don't care what anybody says. I got the proof. They're the stupid ones. They're the morons out there, the ones who don't believe it, right? Like I feel like I'm Noah, and they're the ones laughing at me for building the ark, and yet they're just standing there laughing. Now here comes the rain. Here comes the rain, and they got nowhere to go. So there you go, folks. That's how everyone who is interested in this subject, everyone who believes in it, everyone who's had an experience, everyone who's been studying this, right? We got it now. We have the truth is on our side, right? These dummies on the other side, if they don't want to accept it, we have the evidence to flash in their face now. Where's your swagger? Look at the swagger. I got swagger. I don't care what anybody says about me. I don't care. Bring it on, man. Let's debate. You want to dare? I dare any debunker out there to come and try to debate this. Come on. They can't. Anyway, I just want to say thank you all for joining me. Until next time.